Welcome to the Premiership Pie, where I give out the slices, the percentage chances of the contenders winning the flag. Whether this is the first or the third time you're watching it, I hope you enjoy. And as always, guys, these are changing. These are not set in stone. New information breeds about new opinions. That's kind of how information works. So yeah, there are changes. We learned some more things about these contenders. So let's get into it. And for the first time in Premiership Pie Daz Talks footy history, we have some equal slices. Not everyone is getting a different slice of the Premiership pie. So let's start with the 1%ers. And there are 3 clubs in this. Now let's start, if you want to put them in some kind of order, let's start with Freo because they were one of the bigger losers over the weekend. So yeah, let's start there, I suppose. And very simply, because like I say, I kind of want to make these shorter and shorter because I am talking about the same clubs. And I think we're all on the same opinion of, we know the result of the weekend and probably the fallout of that. But be all and end all, yes, the Dockers can win next week. It is not a case of like they're 1% because they're going to miss finals. We don't know. You can have your suspicions on who's going to win that Bulldogs and Freo game. I've got no qualm with that in the slightest. I think the bit that's going in my head that's going, no, the 1% is I just don't trust them enough and it would take a miracle is that they have to convince me that psychologically and mentally that loss against Brisbane is going to change them fundamentally in the way they play the game. And more so without the ball. I still, like I said in the Brisbane review, I struggle with the third midfielder theory that they have. So that is a big concern. And you let Brisbane do what they wanted. If they let any team, even if they beat the Bulldogs next week, if they get to the finals and they allow the opposition to play the way that the opposition wants to play, they're just not going to get anywhere. And that's where I stand with them, unfortunately. And then their opponent coming into this week is the Bulldogs, who are also getting 1% of the pie. My only gripe with the Dogs at the moment is not obviously the percentage. It's not even the top 9 record, by the way, which I know is 2-8. I know that. They had a really good win over the Eagles. They had to, right? We have seen, well, maybe not necessarily outside of Sydney, those upsets happen in the last 2/3 of the season, but you never want to be that club. They weren't, so credit to them for that. But I don't trust a club that's not that good at defending, to be honest. And look, it's not 100% their fault. Like the cattle may not be there, but going into a final series where you have to love what you love about a team, but you also have to be pessimistic about the things that you are pessimistic about, I can't see that back 6 leading the Bulldogs to a flag, no matter how good that midfield and forward line are. And yes, I know I have griped on and on about this third midfielder theory, and the Bulldogs would belong in one of the group of teams that do belong in that Premiership third midfielder tier because Bont, Libba, Ed Richards third, or if you want to go Bont, Richards, Libba would be third. I would probably go Libba 2, well not probably, I would go Libba 2, Richards 3. Both of those are extraordinary players, so they would belong in the group of teams that do have the third midfielder. It is that defense that lets them down. Do I think that if they can nab a Jake Lever, if I think that they could nab a Cal Wilkie, which after his interviews on the weekend looks like an absolute no, but let's just say they could, yeah, they would be in my flag contention next year. No doubt about it. And a fully fit Cody Waitman back. Just don't think it's going to all add up and create a premiership this year. Sorry, Dogs fans. And then the final 1% team are the Gold Coast Suns, who I think just proved with that game against the Giants that they're just not ready yet. They're going to get at least 1, if not 2, pretty easy wins over Port and Essendon. I think the Port game is more of a danger game because it's going to be Ken's home farewell. But I still don't think they should drop that game. But both of those two, they're still going to probably end up top 4, which seems extraordinary, but I just can't help but think that this is going to be the bit of finals experience they need in order to launch next year, the year after, whatever it may be. If you're a Gold Coast fan, you're going to experience finals for the first time, which is an incredible thing, and if I'm wrong and you win the flag, hey, you get to rub it in my face. I've got no issue with that in the slightest. Outside of that is you're going to have as good a year as you are going to bring Zeke Ullin and Dylan Patterson in next year. To even start, you've even got more blokes, Bo Adensol, and you got these guys that are going to come in as well. So they're in an extremely good place, the Suns are, and they are well suited to modern footy. But, you're asking an intern to do a CEO's job, and I just don't think they're up for that yet. The Pies come in next. They've lost 5 of the last 6, and yes, they nearly pinched a win against top of the ladder, away from home, 71 inside 50s, garnering you 56 points is disgusting. And allowing 9 goals from less than 40 inside 50s is not great defense either. So when 2/3 of the ground are not in good shape, it's going to be really hard for me to turn around and go, yep, you're absolutely going to turn this around and do it real quick. History is on their side more than the present and future are, which is a big problem. And I'm still waiting for the Collingwood fans that gave me shit for the Tom Mitchell and Ned Long working together will be a disaster take that worked against a bad team, and now Collingwood aren't even letting it work against good ones. So, hey, I can accept an apology. I'm a humble man. I am going to do a top 10 worst takes video of this year that are all mine. I'm able to put my hand up and say when I'm wrong. Are you able to do the same? That's all I'm asking. Yeah, Darcy Moore's in pretty bad form. If it wasn't for Darcy Cameron and Nicky D at the moment, boy, this would be not good, not fun. Look, they're still going to play finals. They're going to be a nightmare to match up on, especially if it's at the MCG, because you've got the noise of affirmation, the roar of affirmation, if you will, for the home team, or for Collingwood fans at the MCG, which is where it's going to be loudest. But history versus future, I'm not sure if relying on history is going to be enough. The loser of GWS and Gold Coast were always going to be a part of my 1% club. The winner was going to extend themselves even further, and the Giants were able to do that. It feels like the Giants' hiccups have always been short term, which is really good. Now, obviously, in a final series, you're going to have very little hiccups. I understand that. But if you're going to look at what a club has done over the course of the year, the Giants, the start of their year was brilliant. Of course, that massive win over the Pies in the opening round. The fact that they looked at someone who is around their spot on the ladder and who are probably now going to finish higher than them, as I just chuck a coin around my table here. But Gold Coast are going to finish higher than them on the ladder, yet there is no one after that performance that goes, if they were to meet in a final, Gold Coast would be favourites. I don't think anyone is thinking that at this point in time. The Giants are going to be super dangerous. They have played at a lot of different venues this year. Travelling, I don't think, is going to be a big problem for them. They still need a lot to go right, but considering you're looking at that topmost sort of prong of the ladder, they've beaten the Pies, which is handy. Geelong just can't seem to beat them at the moment, which is a bit of a problem for the Cats. So I like a lot of what they've been able to do. Yeah, the game against the Crows was a bit crap when they played them earlier on. And like I said, you still need a lot to go right, considering that they're not getting a huge slice of pie here. But I'm super impressed with the Giants, and I think probably around 4 to 6 weeks ago, I was wrong about them, absolutely. Quick little story here for you. I was hanging around with Big Daz Senior, my dad, the other day, and he was like, considering you do videos on a lot of clubs, a lot of teams, which clubs do you think like you the most? And I remember I said to him, I was like, to be perfectly honest, I think Crows fans, I think after the 24 top 4 thing, I think they kind of went, okay, Daz can see where we're going. I think North fans have been relatively appreciative that I'm not ready to sort of kick them to the curb. And then I think Hawks fans, just because of how much Hawks fans watch, because I am a Hawks fan as well. Some of them will know me from Talking Hawks, all those kinds of things. So I think they get around me. He then also asked me, which clubs do I think don't like me the most? And look, I don't think that there are particular fan groups that don't like me so much. But if I was to guess, I think Essendon fans, I think, can disagree with my takes a lot. I think St Kilda fans don't like that I have been against them in the past. And I would say Hawthorn again would be a part of the group that don't like me as much. I think Hawthorn fans can find me rather polarizing because I'm not ready to sit here and blow smoke up them. And I'm probably harder on the Hawks in terms of giving praise. However, I think after what the Hawks have done, especially in the last fortnight, it's gone off without a hitch. 2 wins by a combined 100 points, and I'm not really on board this whole, well, we let the Demons kick the last 3 goals, we're not in the top 4 at the moment, so everything's shit. I think that's actually absurd. An absurd take it was. We beat Brisbane. We set ourselves up in the best spot possible. If we don't beat Brisbane, we probably weren't going to finish top 4 anyway. So I don't really think that those 3 goals were going to make a shred of difference altogether in the slightest. And if you're looking at it, well, if we don't beat Brisbane, we still need results to go our way to blah. There are not a lot of teams around us. So if you take Adelaide and Geelong just out of the equation for a sec, and depending on what Brisbane do to us this week, but if we put Brisbane in that top tier for a second, none of the other 6 teams frighten me at all. Like, we should have beaten Gold Coast in Darwin. We have beaten GWS. We went 1-1 against the Crows, even though they're not included here. Like, we were ahead at 3/4 time against Freo. We beat the Bulldogs. We smacked the Pies a week ago. I'm backing us in. in nearly all final scenarios in week 1. Now, week 2 is going to be a little bit different, but I would love a crack at the Cats if it did come to that. And like I said, the only 2 clubs that I think would start absolutely favourites ahead of us would be Adelaide over there and would be Geelong, and probably, depending on how it goes this week, Brisbane at the Gabba in week 2 of the finals. Yes, we would still have to play well. I'm not saying we're a guaranteed prelim final team, but the reason why we are sitting further up in the pie chart than maybe some people expect is because it's not the end of the world, and that's not a bad thing. The Hawks are going beautifully. I can't believe I'm being more optimistic than some others are. Just like watching my 5-year-old stepson on a trampoline, we are taking a big jump, buddy, here in the pie chart, because we've got Brisbane now at 20%, a big 15% jump from the tie that was the Giants and the Hawks. And look, they did everything right against Freo. They smacked them in all the ways that matter, including some ways that don't even matter. They just belted the shit out of them, which was really impressive to see. But overall, I think Brisbane is suffering from how much credit, I should say, do we want to give them for that week versus where do you look at their last 6, 7, 8 overall? They look a better team away from home than they do at the Gabba. I genuinely feel like if the Hawks lose, like if they beat the Hawks this weekend, then they'll take 3 or 4 of the Hawks percent, I think, at this point, and they are probably that team that are going to take the percent of the loser of Freo and Bulldogs, because they'll obviously become 0 because they won't be in the finals. It's going to be pretty hard to win it from 9th. But Brisbane fit everything that I want in a contender. They've got the 3rd midfielder down. They've got the 4th one down if you bring Lockie Neal back for the finals, just quietly. Their defense holds up really well. Their forward line hold up really well most of the time. I think there is a bigger load on Zach Bailey and Cam Rayner, rightly or wrongly, but with the out-of-formness of Charlie, the fact that Eric Hipwood is not hitting the scoreboard in a major way, but he's still doing things around the ground that I think he's maybe not getting the credit for that he deserves, but that's a whole nother story. But overall, Brisbane, they've done nothing wrong. Like 1 in 5 at this point, and it's in terms of the Premiership pie, and that's only going to increase with a win against the Hawks if they have that win. And if they don't, well, of course, I'll sit here next week and go, there are some things to discuss. Everything about the fixture for me now is gone, is no longer a talking point. Yes, Geelong can't control who they play, but I've said in my Premiership pie pieces that I am not ready to label Geelong as your out-and-out contender because I worry about the soft run-in. Well, Jeremy Cameron held goalless at halftime. They were on the road against, look, the best team that's not going to make finals, which is the best that you can do at this point with the fixture they were given. If they couldn't handle the heat, if the Swans could have got them, you'd go, yeah, the soft run-in is, a big problem. But no, they wiped the Swans. That 3rd quarter was unbelievably impressive. Bailey Smith putting on a really strong show, as did a bunch of other Cats. Grind Myers, my goodness me. The footy fan in me loves Grind Myers. The Hawthorn fan in me hates how much I love Grind Myers. What a good player he is, my goodness gracious me. But I'd be here forever if I went over the reasons why I like Geelong, and then the Hawthorn fan in me would take ages to hate myself for the reasons why I like them so much. I shouldn't. I know that I shouldn't. Oh, but they're so good though. That was my head in. But overall, with what they were given and what they could have done in terms of a loss, and at 21-2, it was at about the 11th minute mark of that 1st quarter, there was every reason for me to get on here and go, see, told ya, soft fixture, they haven't got it. I think they've got it, and they're going to do unsavory things to Richmond next week. Boy. But there is only one team left to talk about, and of course, that is the Crows, the mighty Adelaide Crows. But what about the throwing? What about the shut up? This is always the case of, and I don't care whether it's the throwing or whether it's the ducking, whether it was, yes, as a Hawthorn fan, we had blokes that did it too, or whether it's Selwood, or whether it's Luke Shuey, or whether it's anything. It's not the people that do it. It's the adjudication. Why are we mad at the players that throw? It wasn't paid. That's what you should be getting mad at. But when you concede 71 inside 50s to anyone, I don't care who it is, let alone team that's going to play finals, and you do what you did defensively, I don't give a stuff about the midfield battle. To be honest, I don't really give a damn that their goal efficiency was the 23.8% or whatever it was. I don't really give a stuff about that. Jack Hompsch right now is the assistant coach of the year. He's 32 years old. There are 24 players in the competition that are playing that are older than Jack Homsch is, and he's leading the number one defense in the competition. That he's probably only going to have one All-Australian in it, Josh Worrell, and even then, he's not guaranteed to make it. This is going to be a top-of-the-table team that either is going to have just Dawson, if they do something weird, Dawson and Thilthorpe, which I'm starting to doubt, by the way, or Dawson and Worrell, which I think should be the case, or you have all three, which would be just reward for the top of the team, whether Thilthorpe's like your forward on the bench, if you want to go that way, but they're so good. And that kind of win, in those kind of circumstances, the fact that you're going to book yourself into probably 2 home finals now, it's not theirs to lose, because that would be unbelievably arrogant, but it's theirs to choke. Everything that could go right for them is going right for them. So now it's down to execution. That's it. If they execute properly, it's theirs. That's the scary part. So good. And of course, if they don't execute, they will lose finals. That's the way it works. But 33%, 1 in every 3 times I think I could simulate this final series, they still come out on top, which is extraordinary. But yes, 63% is them and Geelong. Think of that what you will. That's the point of the Premiership pie. So what do you think, guys? Like the video. If you like the video, subscribe, join the Dad Talks Footy family. Comment below and tell me why I'm right and why I'm wrong and all of those beautiful things. I will see you in the next video. You absolute legends. Take it easy. See you later. Goodbye.